The screech of tires and the shattering of glass still echoed in my skull, though I couldn't tell if it was a memory or a nightmare. I woke up in a sterile hospital room, my head throbbing like a war drum, with no idea who I was or why a stranger in a tailored suit was crying at my bedside. His name, he said, was Ethan Caldwell, and he claimed to be my fiancé, but I didn't trust the way his eyes searched mine, like he was hiding something. My name, according to the chart at the foot of the bed, was Lucas Harper, 27, born in Seattle, now lying in a New York hospital with a fractured skull and a mind wiped clean. The doctors called it retrograde amnesia, a cruel thief that stole every moment of my life before the crash. Ethan, with his polished voice and Rolex glinting under the fluorescent lights, told me we'd been together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. He said we were happy, that we'd built a life together in his Manhattan penthouse, that I'd been driving his car when a drunk driver T-boned me on the West Side Highway. But his words felt like puzzle pieces from someone else's picture. Why don't I remember you? I rasped, my throat dry as sandpaper. Ethan's face crumpled, but I didn't feel the pull of familiarity, only a vague unease. Something about his perfect jawline and the way he kept smoothing his dark hair screamed wrong. If you're my fiancé, why do I feel like you're a stranger? My voice sharpened, cutting through the haze of painkillers. Are you lying to me? Ethan flinched like I'd slapped him. Lucas, I'd never lie to you. You're everything to me. His hand reached for mine, but I yanked it away, my heart pounding. The machines beeped louder, mirroring my rising panic. You need to rest, he said softly, but his eyes darted to the door, like he was afraid someone might walk in. The nurse, a kind woman named Maria with a Brooklyn accent, bustled in to check my IV. He's been here every day? She whispered, as if Ethan couldn't hear. Never leaves your side. But her words didn't soothe me. If Ethan was so devoted, why did my gut scream that he was hiding something? Why did the word Homewrecker flash in my mind, unbidden, like a neon sign? Over the next few days, Ethan tried to fill in the blanks. He showed me photos on his phonius at a beach in the Hamptons, laughing at a gala, kissing under a Christmas tree. I stared at my own face, tanned and smiling, but it was like looking at a stranger. This is us, Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. This is our life. But the more he talked, the more I felt like I was drowning in someone else's story. He told me I was a freelance graphic designer, that I'd moved to New York to chase my dreams, that we'd met at a charity auction where he outbid everyone for my artwork. It sounded romantic, but it didn't feel like mine. Then came the dreams. Fragments of memories or maybe hallucinations where I was running through a rain-soaked street, chasing someone whose face I couldn't see. A voice, low and urgent, whispered, "You don't belong with him." Whose voice? Not Ethan's. It was rougher, warmer, tinged with a southern drawl. Every time I woke, my chest ached with a longing I couldn't explain. On the 5th day, a man slipped into my room while Ethan was out getting coffee. He was tall, with messy blonde hair and a leather jacket that smelled faintly of motor oil. His green eyes locked onto mine, and my heart stuttered not from fear, but from something deeper, something that felt like home. "Lucas," he said, his voice breaking. It's me. Caleb. Who the hell are you? I demanded. But my voice wavered. My body recognized him, even if my mind didn't. He stepped closer, and I noticed scars on his knuckles, the kind you get from fighting or fixing engines. You shouldn't be here, I said, but I didn't mean it. I had to see you, Caleb said, his drawl thick, like he'd grown up in the South. I heard about the crash. I thought. He swallowed hard, his eyes glistening. I thought you were gone. Ethan burst back into the room, his face darkening when he saw Caleb. Get out, he snapped, his voice like steel. You're not welcome here. Caleb didn't budge. He deserves to know the truth. Ethan, you can't keep him in the dark forever. What truth? I demanded, my head spinning. The machines beeped wildly, and Maria rushed in, telling everyone to calm down. But I couldn't calm down. My world was fracturing, and these two men, Ethan, the polished billionaire, and Caleb, the rough-edged stranger, were pulling me in opposite directions. Lucas, Caleb said, ignoring Ethan. You loved me. Not him. He stole you from me. The words hit like a punch. Ethan's face went pale, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. He's lying, Ethan said, but his voice shook. He's a nobody. Lucas. A mechanic who tried to ruin us. Ruin us? Caleb laughed bitterly. You're the one who lied to him. Ethan. You're the homewrecker. The room spun. I gripped the bed rails, my knuckles white. Someone tell me what's going on, I said, my voice breaking. Now. Caleb took a step closer, his eyes never leaving mine. 2 years ago, you and I were together. We were happy. Lucas. Then Ethan came along with his money and his promises, and he tore us apart. Ethan grabbed Caleb's arm, but Caleb shook him off. Tell him, Caleb said, his voice low and dangerous. Tell him how you manipulated him, how you made him think I was nothing. Enough, I shouted, my head pounding. The pain was unbearable, but not as bad as the confusion. Both of you, get out. Maria ushered them out, but not before Caleb slipped a folded piece of paper into my hand. Read this when you're ready, he whispered. It's from you. Before the crash. Alone in the room, I unfolded the paper with trembling hands. It was a letter, written in my own handwriting. Caleb, I'm sorry. I don't know how to fix this, but I love you. I always will. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. Who was I? Who was I supposed to love? And why did the truth feel like a knife in my chest? The letter burned a hole in my hand, its words looping in my mind like a broken record. I stared at the ceiling of the hospital room, the fluorescent lights buzzing faintly, as I tried to piece together a life I couldn't remember. Caleb's face, those green eyes. That raw, unguarded pain felt like a key to a lock I didn't know existed. But Ethan's desperate pleas kept me tethered to doubt. I didn't tell Ethan about the letter. Something told me to keep it secret, to guard it like a fragile relic. When he returned later that day, his suit slightly wrinkled and his eyes red-rimmed. He tried to act normal. "You need to eat," he said, setting a tray of hospital food on my table. "The doctors say you're recovering well. We'll get you home soon." His smile was practiced, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Home," I echoed, the word feeling foreign. "Where's that?" "Exactly." Ethan hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough to make my skin prickle. "Our place in Manhattan," he said. "You love the view of the skyline. You used to sketch it from the balcony." He pulled out his phone again, showing me a photo of a sleek apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows. I saw myself in the reflection of the glass, holding a sketch pad, but it still felt like someone else's life. "Tell me about Caleb," I said abruptly, watching his reaction. Ethan's jaw tightened, his fingers pausing on the phone. "He's nobody," he said, too quickly. "A guy you dated briefly before we met. He was unstable, jealous. He couldn't handle that you moved on." "Moved on." I leaned forward, ignoring the stab of pain in my skull. "He said you stole me from him. That you lied." Ethan's face hardened, but his voice stayed calm. "He's delusional. Lucas, you chose me. We built something real." He reached for my hand again, and this time I let him take it, but only because I wanted to see if it sparked anything. It didn't. His touch was warm, but it felt like a stranger's. That night, alone again, I reread Caleb's letter. The handwriting was unmistakably mine, the loops and slants identical to the signature I'd practiced on hospital forms. "I love you. I always will." The words carved a hollow ache in my chest. I tried to summon a memory of Caleb, his voice, his touch. Anything but all I got were flashes of rain and running. The same dream that haunted me. I needed answers, but my mind was a locked vault. The next morning, Maria caught me staring at the letter. "You okay, hon?" she asked, adjusting my pillow. "You look like you're carrying the world." "Do you know Caleb?" I asked, keeping my voice low. Her eyes softened. "I've seen him around. Came by a few times before you woke up. Asking about you. Seemed real torn up." She glanced at the door, then leaned closer. "He's not like Mr. Fancy Pants out there. Rough around the edges. But he's got heart." "Why didn't Ethan mention him?" I pressed. Maria shrugged. "Some folks don't like sharing the spotlight. Just be careful. Okay. Trust your gut." She patted my shoulder and left, her words lingering like a warning. I was discharged a week later, still shaky but determined to find the truth. Ethan drove me to his penthouse in a sleek black SUV, the city blurring past in a haze of lights and noise. The apartment was everything the photos promised: modern, expansive, with a view that could steal your breath. But it felt like a museum, not a home. My sketches hung on the walls, but I didn't recognize the style. Bold, vibrant lines. Nothing like the timid doodles I'd tried in the hospital. You'll settle in, Ethan said, handing me a glass of wine. We'll take it slow. But his eyes kept darting to his phone, like he was waiting for something. That night, I found a locked drawer in the study. Ethan was in the shower, so I grabbed a paperclip and jimmied it open, my hands trembling. Inside was a stack of letters, all in my handwriting, addressed to Caleb. I miss you. I don't know how to leave. He's not who he seems. My heart pounded as I read, each word chipping away at Ethan's story. The last letter was dated a month before the crash. I'm coming back to you. Wait for me. I stuffed the letters back and locked the drawer, my mind racing. Ethan wasn't just hiding Caleb, he was hiding me. The real me. The one who loved someone else. But why? What did he gain from keeping me in the dark? The next day, I told Ethan I needed fresh air. He insisted on coming, but I slipped out while he was on a call, hailing a cab to the address on Caleb's Let Terra garage in Brooklyn. The place smelled of oil and metal. And there he was, Caleb, wrench in hand, his shirt streaked with grease. He froze when he saw me, his eyes lighting up with hope and fear. Lucas, he breathed, dropping the wrench. You came. Tell me everything, I said, my voice shaking. No lies. Caleb nodded, leading me to a small office in the back. He handed me a photo of us, taken in a park, my arm around his waist, both of us laughing. This was us, he said. Before Ethan. We met at a bar in Williamsburg. You were sketching on a napkin, and I bought you a beer just to see you smile. The story poured out of him, our late-night talks, our dreams of leaving the city, the way I'd promised to move to Nashville with him. Then Ethan entered the picture, a billionaire who dazzled me with promises of a bigger life. He convinced you I was holding you back, Caleb said, his voice raw. He said I wasn't good enough. And you started to believe him. I stared at the photo, my thumb tracing our smiles. Why didn't you fight for me? I asked. I tried, Caleb said, his eyes glistening. But you stopped answering my calls. Then I heard about the crash, and I thought I'd lost you forever. I wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at me. Ethan's world was polished, safe, familiar. Caleb's was raw, uncertain, dangerous. But when Caleb reached for my hand, I didn't pull away. His touch sparked something, a flicker of memory, a warmth I hadn't felt with Ethan. I need time, I said, stepping back. I need to figure out who I am. Caleb nodded, his jaw tight. I'll wait. Lucas. I've always waited. As I left the garage, the weight of the letters and Caleb's words pressed against my chest. Ethan was waiting for me at the penthouse. But now I knew he was hiding more than just a rival. He was hiding the truth about my heart. Back in Ethan's penthouse, the air felt heavier, like the walls were closing in. Every polished surface, every piece of art, screamed wealth. But it also screamed control. I couldn't shake the image of Caleb's calloused hands or the letters I'd found, each one a plea from a version of me I couldn't reach. Ethan noticed my distance. You're quiet, he said over dinner. A spread of gourmet takeout I barely touched. Is it the headaches? We can get you back to the doctor. His concern sounded genuine. But I caught the way his eyes flicked to me, searching for cracks in my facade. I'm fine, I lied, pushing a piece of salmon around my plate. Just adjusting. I couldn't tell him about the letters or Caleb's visit. Not yet. I needed to understand the game before I played my hand. That night, I waited until Ethan was asleep, his soft snores filling the penthouse. I crept back to the study, my heart pounding as I reopened the locked drawer. The letters were still there, but now I noticed something else: a small notebook tucked beneath them. My hands shook as I opened it. Pages of my handwriting, but not letters. A journal. The first entry was dated 2 years ago, just before I met Ethan. I met Caleb tonight. He's different. Real. He makes me feel like I can breathe. The words hit like a tidal wave. Entry after entry detailed our life together: nights at dive bars, rides on his motorcycle, dreams of a future far from the city's chaos. Then Ethan appeared, his name scrawled in sharper, angrier strokes. He says he can give me everything. But why does it feel like I'm losing myself? The final entry, written a week before the crash, made my blood run cold. Ethan knows about Caleb. He's threatening to ruin him if I leave. I don't know what to do. I closed the notebook, my chest tight. Ethan wasn't just a liar, he was a manipulator. Maybe even dangerous. The next morning, I confronted him. We were in the kitchen, sunlight streaming through the windows, when I slammed the notebook on the counter. What is this? I demanded, my voice shaking. Why didn't you tell me about Caleb? About the threats? Ethan's face went pale, but he recovered quickly, his expression smoothing into something practiced. Lucas, you're confused. That journal, it's old. You were upset when you wrote it. Caleb was toxic, and I helped you see that. Helped me. I snapped, stepping closer. You threatened him. You made me think I belonged here, with you. Ethan's eyes narrowed, but his voice stayed calm. I saved you. Lucas, Caleb was dragging you down. You wanted more success, stability. I gave you that. By lying. I shouted. By erasing him from my life. He reached for me, but I backed away, my hands trembling. You need to calm down, he said. You're not thinking straight. The crash messed with your head. Don't gaslight me, I said, my voice low and dangerous. I'm starting to remember. It was a bluff, but it hit its mark. Ethan's composure cracked, just for a second, and I saw fear in his eyes. What do you remember? He asked, his voice tight. Enough, I said, holding his gaze. Enough to know you're not who you say you are. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Be careful, Lucas. You don't know what you're stirring up. The threat hung in the air, chilling me to the bone. I left the penthouse that afternoon, claiming I needed a walk, But I went straight to Caleb's garage. He was there, working on a beat-up Chevy, his hands steady despite the tension in his shoulders. When he saw me, he dropped his tools and crossed the room in 3 strides. "You okay?" he asked, his eyes scanning me like he was checking for wounds. "No," I admitted, my voice breaking. "I found a journal. It's mine. It says Ethan threatened you, that he forced me to stay." Caleb's jaw clenched, but he didn't look surprised. "He did," he said. "He came to me a year ago, said he'd ruin my business, get me arrested, whatever it took to keep you. I didn't have the money or the power to fight him." "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my throat tight. "I tried," Caleb said, his voice raw. "But you were already slipping away. Ethan had you believing I was the problem." I sank onto a stool, my head in my hands. "I don't know who to trust," I said. "I don't even know who I am." Caleb knelt in front of me, his hands resting lightly on my knees. "You're Lucas Harper. You're stubborn as hell. You draw like nobody else. And you loved me once. That's who you are." His words sparked some Thinga memory, faint but real. A rainy night. Caleb's arms around me, his voice promising we'd figure it out. I looked into his eyes, and for the first time since the crash, I felt anchored. "I need to know more," I said. "Help me remember." Caleb nodded, pulling out his phone. "I kept everything," he said. "Your texts, your voicemails. I couldn't let you go." He played a voicemail, my voice crackling through the speaker. "Caleb, I'm sorry. I don't know how to fix this, but I'm trying. I love you." It was the same message as the letter, but hearing it in my own voice made it real. Tears stung my eyes as I listened, each word pulling me closer to the truth. But Ethan wasn't done. That night, back at the penthouse, I found a new letter on my pillow. Not in my handwriting this time. "Leave Caleb alone, or you'll both regret it." The words were typed and signed, but I knew who'd left it. Ethan was watching, and he wasn't going to let me go without a fight. The note on my pillow sent a chill down my spine, its typed words screaming Ethan's control. I stuffed it into my pocket before he could see me with it, my heart racing as I pretended to sleep. The penthouse, once a symbol of luxury, now felt like a cage, and I knew I had to get out before Ethan's threats turned into something worse. The next morning, I told Ethan I was meeting a doctor for a follow-up. He offered to drive me, his smile too tight, but I insisted on going alone. "I need space," I said, my voice steady despite the fear gnawing at me. He nodded, but his eyes followed me out the door, sharp and calculating. I went straight to Caleb's garage, the only place that felt safe. He was waiting, his face lighting up when he saw me, but it darkened when I showed him the note. "He's not bluffing," Caleb said, crumpling the paper in his fist. "Ethan's got the money and the connections to make our lives hell." "Then why stay?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Why not run?" Caleb's eyes softened. Because of you. Lucas. I lost you once. I'm not doing it again. His words hit hard, stirring that same flicker of Memoria motorcycle ride. My arms around his waist, the wind carrying our laughter. I didn't have the full picture, but I trusted the feeling. I need to know everything, I said. Every detail you've got. Caleb took me to his apartment above the garage. A small, cluttered space that smelled of coffee and motor oil. He pulled out a box from under his bed, filled with mementos of our life together, ticket stubs from a concert, a sketch I'd drawn of him sleeping, a cheap ring he said I'd given him as a joke. You said it was temporary, he said, holding up the ring, till we could afford something real. I took the ring, its weight grounding me. Why did I leave you? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Caleb sighed, running a hand through his hair. Ethan showed up with his charm and his promises. Said he could get your art in galleries, make you famous. I couldn't compete with that. I'm just a mechanic. But I loved you, I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. It wasn't a memory, it was a certainty, rising from somewhere deep. You did, Caleb said, his voice thick. And I think you still do. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Where are you? We need to talk. My stomach dropped. He knew I wasn't at the doctor's. I showed Caleb the message, and he cursed under his breath. He's tracking you, Caleb said, grabbing his laptop. Check your phone settings. He might have installed something. Sure enough, buried in my phone's apps was a tracking program I didn't recognize. My hands shook as I deleted it, rage bubbling up. Ethan wasn't just lying, he was spying on me, controlling every move. I'm done with him, I said, my voice trembling with fury. I want out. Caleb nodded, his jaw tight. Then we need a plan. Ethan's not gonna let you go without a fight. We spent the day piecing together my past. Caleb showed me more photos, played more voicemails, each one pulling me closer to the life I'd lost. But the more I learned, the more dangerous Ethan seemed. Caleb told me about the threats, how Ethan had bribed a local cop to harass him, how he'd spread rumors that nearly tanked Caleb's business. He's got power, Caleb said. But we've got something he doesn't. What's that? I asked. Us, Caleb said simply. And for the first time, I believed him. That night, I went back to the penthouse to keep up appearances. But I was on edge, waiting for Ethan to slip. He was waiting in the living room, a glass of whiskey in his hand. You weren't at the doctor's, he said, his voice calm but laced with menace. Where were you? Walking. I lied, meeting his gaze, trying to clear my head. He stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. You're slipping, Lucas. I can see it. You're starting to believe Caleb's lies. Maybe they're not lies. I shot back, unable to stop myself. Maybe you're the one hiding something. Ethan's face darkened, and for a moment, I thought he might hit me. But he just smiled, cold and calculated. "You'll see the truth soon enough," he said. "Caleb's nothing but a mistake you made." I didn't sleep that night, my mind racing with plans to escape. Caleb and I had agreed to meet the next day to figure out our next move. But Ethan's words echoed in my head. "You'll see the truth." What did he know that I didn't? And why was he so confident I'd stay? The answer came the next morning, when a package arrived at the penthouse. Inside was a USB drive. No note. I plugged it into my laptop when Ethan was out, my heart pounding. It was a video, grainy but clear enough, a security feed from a bar, dated a month before the crash. It showed me and Ethan arguing, my face twisted with anger. Then Caleb appeared, pulling me away, his hand on my arm. The video cut to another angle, showing Ethan watching us leave, his expression cold and calculating. But the last clip was the worst. It was from the night of the crash, a street camera showing my car, Ethan's car, speeding through an intersection. A truck barreled into it, and the screen went black. I froze, my breath catching. The timestamp showed Ethan had been nearby, just blocks away. Had he planned this? Was the crash no accident? I called Caleb, my voice shaking. "I found something. You need to see this." The video left me reeling, my hands shaking as I clutched my phone, waiting for Caleb to arrive. The idea that Ethan might have orchestrated the crash felt like a punch to the gut. But the evidence was staring me in the face. I needed to know more. But every step closer to the truth felt like walking into a trap. Caleb showed up at a coffee shop in Brooklyn, far from Ethan's prying eyes. I showed him the USB drive, my voice low as I explained what I'd seen. His face hardened as he watched the footage, his fists clenching. "This isn't proof," he said, his voice tight. "But it's damn suspicious. Ethan was too close to that crash for it to be a coincidence." "What do we do?" I asked, my head pounding. "If he did this, he's dangerous. More than we thought." Caleb leaned forward, his eyes fierce. "We get you out of that penthouse, somewhere safe. Then we dig deeper, find out what he's hiding." I nodded, but fear gnawed at me. Ethan's wealth and connections made him untouchable, a man who could bend the world to his will. But Caleb's determination grounded me, his belief in us giving me the courage to keep going. Back at the penthouse, I played the part of the obedient fiancé, but every word Ethan spoke felt like a lie. He was attentive, almost too perfect, bringing me coffee, asking about my day. But his eyes kept drifting to my phone, like he was waiting for me to slip up. I kept the USB drive hidden in my sock, its weight a constant reminder of the danger I was in. That night, I searched the penthouse while Ethan was at a late meeting. I found a locked safe in his office, but no key. Desperate, I tried picking the lock with a hairpin, my hand shaking. Inside was a burner phone and a folder of documents, bank statements, property deeds, and a contract with my name on it. It was a non-disclosure agreement, signed by me, promising not to reveal sensitive information about Ethan's business dealings. The date was a week before the crash. My stomach churned. What had I known? What had Ethan wanted to keep quiet? I snapped photos of the documents with my phone, my heart racing as I heard the front door open. I shoved everything back and locked the safe, slipping into the hallway just as Ethan called my name. "You're up late," he said, his voice smooth but his eyes sharp. "Everything okay?" "Just couldn't sleep," I said, forcing a smile. "Headache?" He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Get some rest. We've got a big day tomorrow." His tone was casual, but it felt like a warning. The next day, Caleb and I met at a park, away from prying eyes. I showed him the photos of the documents, and his face darkened. "This is bad," he said. "Ethan's tied to some shady deals offshore accounts. Shell companies. If you knew about this, he had a reason to keep you quiet." "Like causing the crash?" I asked, my voice trembling. Caleb didn't answer, but his silence said enough. We needed more proof, and we needed it fast. Caleb suggested talking to a friend of his, a private investigator named Tara, who owed him a favor. "She's discreet," he said, "and she's good at digging up dirt on guys like Ethan." Tara met us at a diner, her sharp eyes scanning the room before settling on me. "You're in deep," she said, flipping through the photos I'd sent her. "Ethan Caldwell's got a reputation clean on the surface, but there's whispers of fraud, blackmail, even worse. I'll look into the crash, but you need to stay low. If he's watching you, he's watching Caleb too." I nodded, my throat tight. What if he comes after us? Tara's smile was grim. "Then you fight back. Hard." That night, I packed a small bag, ready to leave the penthouse for good. But Ethan was waiting when I got back, sitting in the dark with a glass of whiskey. "Going somewhere?" he asked, his voice dangerously soft. "I need space," I said, my heart pounding. "I'm staying with a friend for a few days." Ethan stood, his shadow looming. "You're not going anywhere, Lucas. Not until we fix this." He stepped closer, and I saw something in his hand, a flash of metal. A knife. A gun. I didn't wait to find out. I bolted for the door, my bag forgotten, and ran into the night. My phone buzzed as I hit the street. Ethan, calling over and over. I ignored it, heading straight for Caleb's garage. When I got there, he pulled me into his arms, his warmth chasing away the fear. "You're safe now," he said, but we both knew it wasn't true. Ethan wasn't done, and the truth was still out of reach. But with Caleb beside me, I felt ready to face whatever came next. Hiding in Caleb's apartment felt like living on borrowed time. Every creak of the floorboards, every car passing outside, made my heart race. Ethan's last words, "You're not going anywhere," echoed in my mind. A reminder that he wasn't just a scorned lover. He was a man with secrets worth killing for. Caleb and I spent the next day planning with Tara. She dug up more on Ethan connections to a shady investment firm, whispers of money laundering, and a police report from the night of the crash that listed mechanical failure as a possible cause. This wasn't just a drunk driver, Tara said, her voice low. Someone tampered with the brakes on Ethan's car, and he was too close to the scene for it to be a coincidence. My stomach twisted. You're saying he tried to kill me? Tara's eyes met mine. Or scare you into silence. Either way, he's dangerous. Caleb's hand found mine under the table. His grip steady. We need to get you somewhere safe, he said. Out of the city. But leaving wasn't simple. Ethan had eyes everywhere, security cameras, business associates, even cops in his pocket. Tara suggested a safe house upstate, a place she used for clients in trouble. Lay low for a week, she said. I'll keep digging. We left that night, driving in Caleb's beat-up truck, the city lights fading behind us. The safe house was a small cabin in the Catskills, surrounded by dense woods. It was quiet. Too quiet. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. Caleb built a fire, and we sat on the floor, the crackling flames casting shadows on his face. Tell me about us, I said, my voice soft. The good parts. Caleb smiled, his eyes distant. You used to drag me to art galleries, even though I didn't get half the stuff you loved. We'd spend hours arguing about colors and shapes, then end up kissing in some alley like teenagers. He laughed, but it was tinged with pain. You made me feel like I was enough. His words stirred some thinga memory of his lips on mine, the taste of rain and beer. I leaned closer, my heart pounding. I'm starting to remember, I said. Little things. You. Caleb's eyes lit up, but he didn't push. Take your time, he said. I'm not going anywhere. That night, we slept side by side, not touching but close enough to feel each other's warmth. For the first time since the crash, I didn't dream of running or glass shattering. I dreamed of Caleb, his laugh, his hands, and a promise we'd made to each other. But peace didn't last. 2 days later, Tara called with bad news. Ethan's looking for you, she said. He's got people sniffing around Brooklyn, asking about Caleb's garage. And he's hired a lawyer, claiming you stole sensitive documents. He's framing me, I said, my voice shaking. Exactly, Tara said. Stay put. I'm close to cracking this. I found a mechanic who worked on Ethan's car before the crash. He's willing to talk for a price. Caleb and I pooled what little money we had, and Tara arranged the meeting. The mechanic, a nervous guy named Joey, met us at a gas station halfway between the city and the safe house. I didn't know it was your car, he said, his eyes darting around. Ethan paid me to mess with the brakes. Said it was a prank, that no one would get hurt. A prank, Caleb growled, stepping forward. I grabbed his arm, holding him back. Did you see him do anything else? I asked. Joey nodded, his voice low. He was at the shop the night before the crash, messing with the car's GPS. I think he was tracking it. My blood ran cold. Ethan hadn't just tampered with the car, he'd known exactly where I'd be. The crash wasn't an accident. It was a warning, We thanked Joey and sent him on his way. But the weight of his words settled over us like a storm cloud. We need to go to the police, I said, my voice trembling. Caleb shook his head. Ethan's got too many cops in his pocket. We need hard evidence, something they can't ignore. Tara was working on it, chasing leads on Ethan's financial records. But time was running out. That night, back at the safe house, I found a note slipped under the door. You can't run forever. No signature, but I knew it was Ethan. He'd found us. We need to move, Caleb said, grabbing our bags. But as we stepped outside, headlights flashed through the trees. A black SUV pulled up, and Ethan stepped out, his face a mask of calm fury. Lucas, he said, his voice smooth. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Caleb stepped in front of me, his fists clenched. Stay away from him. Ethan smiled, cold and dangerous. You're out of your depth, Caleb. This ends now. Ethan's voice cut through the night, sharp and venomous, as the headlights of his SUV bathed the clearing in a harsh glow. My heart pounded, but Caleb's stance steady, protective, kept me grounded. I clutched the USB drive in my pocket, the evidence of Ethan's betrayal burning against my skin. You think you can take him from me? Ethan said, stepping closer. His eyes locked on Caleb. You're nothing. A grease-stained nobody who couldn't keep him the first time. Caleb didn't flinch. He's not yours to keep, he said, his voice low and dangerous. He never was. I stepped forward, my voice shaking but firm. I know what you did, Ethan. The brakes, the tracking, the crash. It wasn't an accident. Ethan's smile faltered, but he recovered quickly. You're confused, Lucas. The amnesia's messing with your head. Come home, and we'll sort this out. Stop lying, I shouted, my hands trembling. I have proof. The video. The documents. Joey's testimony. You tried to kill me to keep me quiet. For a moment, Ethan's mask slipped, and I saw the truth in his eyes, cold, calculating fear. You don't know what you're talking about, he said, but his voice was unsteady. Those documents mean nothing. Joey's a liar. Then why are you here? Caleb snapped, stepping closer. Why track us down if you've got nothing to hide? Ethan's hand moved to his jacket, and my stomach dropped. Caleb, watch out, I yelled, just as Ethan pulled out a small pistol. The world slowed, my breath catching as Caleb shoved me behind him. Don't make me use this, Ethan said, his voice eerily calm. Lucas, get in the car. Now. No, I said, my voice steady despite the fear. I'm done with you. Ethan's eyes narrowed, but before he could respond, a new set of headlights pierced the darkness. Tara's car screeched to a stop, and she jumped out, a camera in her hand, its flash blazing. Smile, Ethan, she said, snapping photos. You're on candid camera. Ethan froze, the gun wavering. What the hell is this? He demanded. Insurance, Tara said, her voice cold. I've got your mechanic signed statement. Bank records showing payments to him. And now photos of you threatening two men with a gun. You're done. Ethan's face twisted with rage. But he lowered the gun, his shoulders slumping. You don't know who you're messing with, he said, his voice low. This isn't over. It is for now, Tara said, pulling out her phone. I've got a friend at the NYPD who's not on your payroll. One call, and you're in cuffs. Ethan glared at us, his eyes burning with hatred, but he backed toward his SUV. You'll regret this, he said, then climbed in and sped off, the taillights vanishing into the night. Tara turned to us, her expression grim. We need to move fast. He's got resources, and he's not going to stop. We piled into her car, heading back to the city. Tara had a contact at a local news outlet, someone willing to break the story about Ethan's crimes. If we go public, he can't touch you without exposing himself, she said. But it's a risk. You ready for that? I looked at Caleb, his hand warm in mine, and nodded. I'm ready. Back in Brooklyn, Tara worked her contacts while Caleb and I holed up in a cheap motel. We spent the night talking, piecing together more of our past. Every story he told every laugh. Every fight brought back fragments of memory, like stars blinking into a dark sky. I remembered the way he'd hum off-key in the shower, the way he'd tease me about my obsession with charcoal sketches. It wasn't everything, but it was enough. The next morning, Tara called with news. The story's going live tonight, she said. We've got enough to bury Ethan financial fraud, tampering with the car, even a witness who saw him near the crash site. But you need to stay out of sight until it's done. We agreed, but the waiting was agony. Caleb kept me grounded, his presence a reminder of what I was fighting for. When this is over, he said, his voice soft, we're getting out of here. Somewhere quiet. Just us. I smiled, my heart full. I'd like that. But Ethan wasn't done. That afternoon, my phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. You think you've won. Check the news. My heart sank as I opened my laptop, finding a breaking story not about Ethan's crimes, but about me. A smear campaign, claiming I was a con artist who'd faked my amnesia to extort Ethan. Photos of me with him, carefully curated to paint me as the villain, were plastered across every major outlet. He's fighting dirty, Caleb said, his jaw tight. But we're not backing down. Tara called, her voice urgent. He's trying to control the narrative, but we're ready. The real story drops tonight, and it's bigger than his lies. As the sun set, we watched the news from the motel, holding our breath. The anchor's voice cut through the static. Billionaire Ethan Caldwell faces allegations of fraud, blackmail, and attempted murder. The screen flashed with evidence. Joey's statement, the bank records, Tara's photos. Ethan's empire was crumbling, and for the first time, I felt free. But freedom came with a cost. The world knew my name now, and not everyone believed the truth. Caleb squeezed my hand, his eyes steady. "We'll get through this," he said. "Together." The news story hit like a tidal wave, exposing Ethan's crimes to the world. By morning, his face was on every screen, his name tied to scandal. Arrest warrants were issued, and his assets were frozen. But he'd vanished, likely fleeing to some offshore haven. The victory felt hollow, though Caleb and I were safe. But the smear campaign had left scars. My name was still tangled in lies, and strangers on the internet debated whether I was a victim or a villain. We stayed in the motel for a few days, laying low while Tara monitored the fallout. "He's gone for now," she said over the phone. "But guys like Ethan don't stay down forever. Stay sharp." Caleb and I used the time to rebuild. My memories were coming back in waves, not all at once, but enough to feel like I was reclaiming myself. I remembered our first date. A clumsy picnic in Prospect Park where Caleb spilled beer on my sketchbook and I laughed until I cried. I remembered the fights, too. The ones Ethan had exploited to drive us apart. But most of all, I remembered loving Caleb. A love so fierce it had survived a crash and a web of lies. One night, as we sat on the motel bed, the TV droning in the background, I turned to him. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice thick, "for letting Ethan come between us. For forgetting you." Caleb shook his head, his eyes soft. "You didn't let him. He took you. And you fought your way back." He took my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "That's what matters." I leaned in, kissing him for the first time since the crash. It wasn't like the memory, yes, it was better. Real. Grounded in the now. His lips were warm. Familiar. And for a moment, the world fell away. No Ethan. No lies. Just us. We left New York a week later, heading for Nashville like we'd planned years ago. Caleb had a friend who owned a garage there, and I could start over, sketching for myself instead of galleries. The road stretched out before us, endless and full of possibility. I didn't have all my memories, but I had Caleb, and that was enough. In Nashville, we found a small apartment with a view of the Cumberland River. I hung my sketches on the walls, each one a step toward reclaiming my past. Caleb worked at the garage, coming home with grease on his hands and a smile that made my heart skip. We were careful, always watching for signs of Ethan. But as the months passed, the fear faded, replaced by something stronger, hope. One evening, as the sun set over the river, I gave Caleb a new ring. Not cheap this time, but simple, engraved with our initials. "This one's Rayal," I said, sliding it onto his finger. "For good." He grinned, pulling me close. Always was. The crash had taken my memories, but it couldn't take my heart. Ethan had tried to rewrite my story, to trap me in his world of lies and control. But love, real, messy, stubborn love, had won. Caleb and I weren't perfect, but we were us, and that was worth everything. Years later, I'd still get flashes of the pasta song on the radio, the smell of rain that brought back pieces of who I'd been. But I didn't need to remember everything to know who I was now. I was Lucas Harper, artist, survivor, and the man who loved Caleb. And no crash, no billionaire, no lie could take that away.